It's a classic tune, especially this time of year.
We've got another holiday to worry about. It seems Thanksgiving Day is upon us. I haven't even finished eating all my Halloween candy.
This year, Charlie Brown, Lucy, Snoopy, and the rest of the Peanuts gang are turning 75. You may have grown up spending Thanksgiving with them, or Halloween, or Christmas year after year.
It's not often, that something like Peanuts reaches a 75th anniversary and is still remembered and loved so well.
You could say the franchise has never been more popular. From new animated specials on Apple TV, to collaborations with major brands and names like NASA and Starbucks, Peanuts remains a staple in pop culture.
It's become iconic. I mean, in capital I, iconic in American culture for sure.
And it all started with one man, Charles "Sparky" Schulz.
He had an audience that loved and worried about these characters as if they lived and breathed like your own children.
This week on the Crossroads Suncast, the story of Peanuts. What these characters represent, why they still resonate after so many years, and how they evolve in the ever-changing landscape of American culture and entertainment. I'm Bryce Patterson.
I do the research and the writing for all of our exhibitions. So when you come in and read something on the wall, that's me talking to you.
That's Benjamin Clark. He's the curator at the Charles Schulz Museum in Santa Rosa, California. It's fair to say no one knows more about Peanuts than him.
I've read through the entire, 17,897 strips multiple times, If I'm still laughing, if I'm still getting a kick out of this, it's like, well, I bet most other people do too.
Clark says Charles Schulz's love for comics started as a bond with his dad.
They had 4 big Sunday comic sections to read every weekend together, and they'd spread them out on the floor, and they would talk about the characters and the storylines, and it was something that he just fell in love with. Back in the 20s, it was a much more popular and just a bigger deal, for entertainment to have newspaper comics.
By the age of 6, Schulz is telling people he wants to grow up and be a newspaper cartoonist.
His parents kind of thought, well, he's got a gift, but how do you even do that? And, remember, it's also the Great Depression. So it's like, how do you make money doing that? How do you make that as a job?
As a kid, he's shy, but his art stands out.
He made friends at school because he could draw Popeye or Mickey Mouse or whatever on your notebooks for you. And the other kids thought that was really cool.
In high school, he takes an art class as a correspondence course, meaning he didn't go in person.
But what's funny is the place that offered that course was only 6 miles from his house. I mean, he could have gone to the in-person classes, but he was so shy. He just said, I couldn't stand the idea of being in a room full of people and looking at your drawings. And he thought, I just can't handle that.
Soon, his adult life begins, and the themes that will define Peanuts begin to emerge. He's drafted into World War II. While he's in basic training, his mother dies from cervical cancer. Eventually, he's stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, called Camp Campbell back then. He serves overseas as a machine gun squad leader in Germany, France, and Austria. His mom's passing, combined with his time at war, means he goes through tough times early on in his adult life. He once said, quote, "The Army taught me all I needed to know about loneliness." Researchers say he likely suffered from undiagnosed PTSD and was plagued by severe depression and crippling anxiety. Both themes you would see later on in Peanuts characters.
Holidays always depress me. I know what you mean.
I've always said that I have just the right qualities to do a pretty good comic strip. I draw quite well. If I drew better, I would probably be a painter. If I wrote better, I would be a novelist or a playwright or something like that.
Sparky returns from the war and jumpstarts his cartooning career, landing a few small gigs in the Minneapolis area, but nothing permanent. That's until he approaches the St. Paul Pioneer Press in 1947.
And they said, yeah, we'll do a weekly, group of cartoons from you. And that was called Little Folks.
Little Folks is a prototype to Peanuts, framed around little kids doing funny things.
Little Folks, there weren't really any named characters. They're just kids. There's some dogs, couple, kind of look like Snoopy. He's kind of developing some things that you kind of look at today and you kind of go, man, that's where Peanuts is coming from. Like these are kind of the primordial ooze of Peanuts right here.
Little Folks is mostly in what was called the ladies section of the newspaper, a place where you'd find news, ads, and other material assumed to be of interest to women. Think ads for things like clothes, sewing machines, food, and beauty products. Also, columns written by women, and social calendars. It was a big topic of debate in the 60s and 70s. The female editors of these pages argued that they should stay, because it allowed them to cover issues important to women. Some feminists, on the other hand, argued the existence of the section indicated that the rest of the newspaper was for men only. Either way, Sparky wants a new home for Little Folks.
He said, can I get moved to the comics page? He says, no. Okay. He said, well, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this cartoon. And the guy goes, okay. So Schulz talked himself out of a job.
After a handful of rejections, Little Folks finds that new home at United Feature Syndicate, one of the biggest of its time. The executives pick the comic up, but some revisions are needed. Most notably, the name. It's too closely associated with other strips at the time, and so the name Peanuts is born, after the Peanut Gallery from the Howdy Doody TV show.
And Schulz hated that, but, he said, who am I? I can't argue.
Here's Sparky in a 1999 interview.
It's a degrading title. Peanuts is not a very pleasant word in itself, and I think I draw a strip which is reasonably dignified, and I need a dignified name. I was lied to, I think, by the syndicate that said you can't copyright a name like Charlie Brown, but I don't think that's true.
Schulz wouldn't even say the title when people asked him what he did for a living. Instead, he'd respond with something like, I draw that comic strip with Snoopy and Charlie Brown in it. Still, Peanuts debuts in 7 newspapers on October 2nd, 1950, and the rest is history. Over the next year, Peanuts starts to pick up steam. By 1951, the strip is in 36 newspapers.
The comics page looked very different than how we see it today. There was a lot more adventure strips, a lot more serials, or kind of soap opera type strips. There were these strips that they're incredibly beautifully drawn and dense on the page.
The strip was designed to be what's called a space saver, meaning it could be adjusted easily to fit wherever it needed to go. That meant the 4 panels could go up and down, left to right, or in a 2x2 format. It could also be shrunk down to fit, which cartoonist Robert Pope says made it important to keep things simple.
His intention was to attract attention with the use of white space, and this was a compelling and unique way to do things.
The characters were simple too.
Talk to other cartoonists who grew up, mimicking that style and trying to draw Charlie Brown, much like Schulz was drawing Popeye and Mickey Mouse in his childhood. They say that getting that round head, you think it's just a circle, but it's not. Depends on which way he's looking and what's going on. Like there are differences, and if you do it just slightly wrong, you put those 2 little dots for eyes. They're just 2 dots, but if you place them wrong, they're too heavy, they're too light. It messes it up, and it doesn't look right.
If you look at Schulz's designs, particularly from the early 60s to the right to 1970 or 71, you see an incredible amount of Picasso-esque aspect, cubist logic, his proportioning, the way that he stages the characters, the negative space between them when they're interacting, when Lucy is yelling at Linus and his hair is blowing backwards. These graphic shapes, they're all masterfully designed to move the eye across those 4 panels and also to attract attention in an extremely competitive sheet of paper.
Don't forget, this was still a business, and the ultimate goal was selling papers. But the style alone wasn't enough to keep the readers hooked.
On its surface, initially, Peanuts was about the cruelty that children extend to each other. And Schulz's experiences as a young man and the way that he applied that to the comic book page were basically to make sure he never forgot. He never forgot what it was like to be bullied or slighted or feel invisible or to feel marginalized as a child. And he was going to make sure that that kind of emotion was present on the page.
Readers started really connecting with the main themes and topics Schulz was writing about.
He also made them so emotionally honest which was really radical at the time on the page, on the comics page. Characters talking about, I think I'm depressed, It's kind of like, wow.
I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel. I just don't understand Christmas, I guess. I like getting presents and sending Christmas cards and decorating trees and all that, but I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed.
For those readers, for that era, it's like, wow, okay. I'm not the only one who has felt this way. I'm not the only one who can be amongst a bunch of people I know and say, why do I still feel so lonely? And, it's these big questions, these big life questions. He put them in there too, but in an honest way and not simply to nail a gag. He did it in a way that still speaks to us. I think even a really philosophical way.
Dealing with life's problems through humor is Schulz's signature style. Here he is in a 1987 interview.
Happiness does not create humor. Sadness creates humor. There's nothing funny about being happy.
And this is in a 1999 interview with Charlie Rose.
I don't look funny, so people say, well, where do you get all the ideas? How can anybody who looks as dumb as you do ever think is something funny? But if you'll pardon the expression, well, excuse me, I think I'm reasonably witty. I think of funny things all the time. It just comes natural. In fact, all of the things that you see in the strip, if you were to read it every day and study it, you would know me. Those are things that I say all the time. It just comes natural to me.
To read your script,
Mm-hmm.
to read your characters is to know you.
That's right. Isn't that depressing?
Eventually, it's not just the strip that takes off. It's the reader's connection and loyalty to those beloved characters.
And they are literally so dimensional that at a certain point, Sparky realized he had an audience that loved and worried about these characters as if they lived and breathed like your own children.
Schulz is able to use that loyalty to his advantage.
When you get people hooked like that, they may not care what's going on in terms of the sports page or the gossip columns or whatever, but they'll plop down their nickel or their dime or whatever because they want to see where Lucy buried Linus's blanket and will Snoopy dig it up, that kind of thing. So it was a great sales technique. It was a great dramatic technique.
Schulz's relationship with the readers was a delicate one. At some point during the 60s, he wrote a series of strips where Linus and Lucy move away because their dad gets a new job.
Letters began pouring in by the thousands. We can't we don't want to look at the paper while we're having breakfast. The children are upset. The parents are upset. And in a moment that Sparky said he later thought, I shouldn't have panicked. I should have played it on a little bit further. He relented and brought the kids back. Your dad didn't like the job. And people wrote him and said, sanity is restored to the kitchen table at 7 a.m., this sort of a thing.
The characters were relatable, except for one.
Each of us, I think, have, I'm 20% Charlie Brown, I'm 40% Linus, I'm 10% Lucy, we would all be able to do that. But Snoopy is the one who we all wish we were. These human characters are the ones that we actually are. Snoopy's the one that we just, if I had the confidence, if I could just do this, if I had the time of a pet dog, I could do that too. And so yeah, Snoopy is in some ways an aspirational character, but he's also, he's so much more than a dog.
And when you have done that, when you've connected, much as in the same way when someone writes, popular music or a song, and you listen to that song and you think that song was written for me. When you're looking at that strip and those people mean as much to you as any person you're going to see on the street, and sometimes more, you've succeeded beyond making a silly little drawing that someone chuckles about.
The gang's popularity starts to jump off the pages. Books, TV specials, merchandise. Before you knew it, Peanuts became a part of American culture.
My producer, Carolyn Othmar, trying to tell me something. What is that, Carolyn? I can't understand you, but...
Ted?
Sir?
Ted. Yeah?
Oh, we understand her, Mr. Koppel.
By all means, tell us.
She's saying
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Snoopy has been the personal safety mascot for NASA astronauts since 1968, and there's even an award named after him. Characters have been recognized on postage stamps. Rides, shows, and attractions at places like Knott's Berry Farm, Cedar Point, and Kings Island are all dedicated to the gang. There's even a high school in Louisiana with a mascot called the Flyers. It's Snoopy as a World War I flying ace.
There's definitely an American alive today who didn't grow up with, some exposure to Peanuts. I mean, it was completely ubiquitous through my childhood. I'm sure a lot of people experience that too. I'm sometimes asked, what was your first Peanuts, experience or something? It's like, I have no idea. It was probably on the sheets of my crib. It's like, I don't know. It's like, are you kidding me?
They're a part of your holiday traditions starting on Halloween.
Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night.
Then, on Thanksgiving, Peanuts have more appearances in the Macy's parade than any other intellectual property. And of course, it's not a feast without toast, popcorn, pretzels, and jelly beans.
What kind of a Thanksgiving dinner is this? Where's the turkey, Chuck? Don't you know anything about Thanksgiving dinners?
And then there's Christmas. That's the first of the holiday specials, celebrating its 60th anniversary this year.
Linus is right. I won't let all this commercialism ruin my Christmas. I'll take this little tree home and decorate it, and I'll show them it really will work in our play.
There are iconic moments that stick with us too.
That image of Lucy pulling the football from poor Charlie Brown.
Come on, Charlie Brown. I'll hold the ball and you kick it. Hold it? Ha! You'll pull it away and I'll land flat on my back and kill myself.
You can hardly open a newspaper today without seeing some, take on that drawn by an editorial cartoonist where, they've drawn some local politician and they've drawn some issue and they label the football some local issue. And it's like, yeah, that's, we all know what that is.
The strip, even showing up in the words we say, like security blanket, added to the dictionary because of Linus. And of course, Charlie Brown's iconic catchphrase, good grief.
And it connects back to, I think also to the fact that viewers who are 3 years old or 93 years old, can watch it and enjoy it and share it together. And that was always his intent as well.
Schulz's work is a rare form of art that connects generations.
My grandma clipped Peanuts clips for me and mailed them to me, even though I had Peanuts in my newspaper. It's still something she wanted to share, and it's great because, I'm sharing Peanuts with my kid, and so it's multi-generational and it still works. It holds up. It's just phenomenal.
On October 14th, 1999, due to health problems, Sparky announces his retirement.
My children just don't want anyone else to do it. And I've seen too many strips go downhill terribly because the syndicate tried to hang on to them and have other people do them.
Corporate creators.
Yeah. Do you really think somebody else could draw my strip? I don't think so.
Less than 3 months after that announcement, he dies in his sleep at his home. The day before his final Sunday strip is said to appear in newspapers around the world. Biographer David Michaelis said, to the very end, his life had been inseparable from his art. In the moment of ceasing to be a cartoonist, he ceased to be. Even though the times have changed, they're still the same characters you've grown to know and love.
Why we still feel strongly, because it is still so tightly connected back to Mr. Schulz, even though he's been gone now for 25 years. We still watch, these new animated adaptations on Apple TV Plus, and they're just wonderful, and they still seem true to him, and it's because it's been so carefully done.
Robert Pope, the cartoonist you've heard from throughout this piece, is one of the artists carrying Sparky's legacy on. He's drawn Snoopy, Charlie Brown, and the rest of the gang for books and theme parks.
So what we're doing really in a lot of cases is instead of trying to build something from the ground up, we're extrapolating a lot of things that either were created and written while Sparky was alive or things that were in process later in his life. So it still has that kind of magical quality of his involvement in one form or fashion or another.
Pope has drawn characters like Bugs Bunny, Scooby-Doo, even Batman in the past. He says those characters have had a lot of different iterations over the years, as different artists give their unique takes, but not Peanuts. We asked him, how does it feel to carry on that legacy?
Petrifying. I think that by and large, most of the cartooning community has a great deal of reverence and respect for the body of work that this man did for half a century. It's the sort of thing that is approached extremely carefully.
The ever-changing landscape of media and entertainment consumption is something always on the mind of Schulz's team.
The business of entertainment is changing in a fairly alarmingly fast fashion.
Kids these days didn't grow up reading Peanuts in the newspaper.
It is a interesting, I wouldn't say dilemma, that's not the right word, but it's an interesting kind of a conundrum when in many respects to a lot of young people, Snoopy is a stuffed animal or an image on a t-shirt. And these are all still very viable, friendly, kind of avuncular images, but they don't give you any of the background of the character.
Kids still enjoy the gang, but not in the paper. Instead, it's in the new places they're being entertained, like streaming services.
Can I look now? I wouldn't, Charlie Brown. Snoopy's about to wipe out!
That evolution is important, and I think why is part of the why Peanuts is still connecting and finding new readers, new people who love it, new fans, even though they did not grow up on the strip.
Ultimately, the goal is to continue evolving without losing sight of how they got there.
We will need to, in time, start there and take people back to the strip. To say, hey, this thing you love, it started out as a comic strip. This is what a comic strip used to be. Because we're not far from it now.
The best definition of art, isn't it? Does it speak to succeeding generations? Real art, real music, real literature speaks to succeeding generations. And not many comic strips do that. Even some of the ones that we regarded as being really good don't do that.
It's fair to say Peanuts meets that standard. Here's Robert Pope's thoughts on the role art plays in life.
It can be as simple as sending someone a little card or walking past someone and leaving a Post-it note on their desk and drawing a little smiley face. It can be that rudimentary. It can be as complicated as the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. But all these things nourish the soul. They enhance the human condition. You have to have something more, and you have to find the things that light the fire in you.
This episode, written and reported by executive producer Morgan Riegel. If you're listening this holiday, a happy Thanksgiving from all of us here at the Crossroads Suncast. And here's to finding the things that light the fire in you.